This video will look at basic gameplay for Relentless Gaze of the Sun in the Spirit Island board game. The Sun has two interesting mechanics. The first is the usage of 3 presents as a unique super sacred site, each presence representing one of the eyes of the sun as it peers down on the island. The second is the ability to repeat cards at additional costs per repetition. I think the theme works really well with the gameplay, which makes this one of my favorite spirits in the new expansion. The spirit always adds presence and has the ability to potentially have a massive energy gain due to its growth option that allows it to gain energy twice. The third growth option also allows you to move presence pretty widely across the board for targeting purposes. We want to be using this energy to repeat power effects, but also give some flexibility if we feel like going into major powers. If we look at the innates, there's a threshold of 3 sun on a lot of effects, so we want to be aiming for 3 sun with our growth tracks. I think the best way to achieve this is to go for the sun and 2 energy on the top, as well as the 2 card plays on the bottom. If we look at the max threshold for the innates, there's a 5 sun threshold that can be met with 2 card plays and the 3 sun uncovered on the growth tracks, further emphasizing that energy should be spent repeating power effects, or can be spent on major powers if you really wanted to. Looking at the innate consider a harmonious nature, there are a couple of utility effects that you could play around with. The first is the moon threshold, where you can destroy your presence instead of adding blight. The only power that you start with that adds blight is the second tier of Scorching Convergence, but this also has implications for other power cards that add blight as a part of their effect. The reclaim growth option for the spirit adds back destroyed presence, so having your presence destroyed isn't the worst thing. The water threshold doesn't damage to Han, which is also an effect of Scorching Convergence. The plant threshold adds destroyed presence of other spirits, which could combo really well with something like Volcano, or a spread of rampant green. Finally, you can fuel other presents with the last water and plant threshold, maybe like Serpent or Keeper. At the beginning, we have to choose if we want to go straight for 2 card plays or go for the energy gain on top. I personally want to go for the 2 card plays. We have a power card, Blinding Glare, that can skip a Ravage on turn 2, and we need a second card to deal with a second land in anticipation for turn 3. Scorching Convergence deals 1 damage to towns or cities, meaning we ideally want to be dealing this damage into a land with Badlands. So if you start off with an Explore in your land with Badlands, then I would probably go for the energy first to get to the 2 sun threshold on turn 1. During setup we start with a Badlands token on the board, and we can either add Badlands with Wilt Bodies Scar Stones, or move Badlands with Focus the Sun's Rays. Turn 1, add a presence to your starting land to get a stack of 3, then use growth option 2 to move that presence into a land that will build. I'm playing Unbearable Gaze, but you could also play something else to deal with the town, like a repeat of Focus the Sun's Rays. Remember that repetition of a power only applies to power cards, and requires 3 presents in the origin land, and can only be repeated onto the originally targeted land. Turn 2, place a presence onto your presence stack to make it 4 presents, and use growth 3 again to move a 2 present sacred site to the imminently ravaging land. Play Blinding Glare and Wilt Bodies Scar Stones. You could also move a 3 presence stack if it's more advantageous. Here I'm using Scorching Convergence and Wilt Bodies to destroy a town. I added a Badlands instead of the 1 damage since the damage would be the same, and I can move the Badlands on turn 3 with Focus the Sun's Rays. I will be taking a Blight in the other wetlands, but the spirit tends to add more Blight than some others anyway. Turn 3, place a presence from the top track and play growth number 2 to gain a minor power, hopefully one with a sun element. If not, go for moon, water, or plant, depending on which part of Consider a Harmonious Nature you want to get. Play this minor power with Focus the Sun's Rays. Middle to late game, the spirit has a ton of potential for almost any effect in the game. For 6 energy, you can repeat a 0 cost card 4 times or a 1 cost card 3 times. For example, once you reach 5 sun, you can pay 1 energy to repeat Blinding Glare for 6 fear, or 6 energy to generate 12 total fear. Compare that to something like Talons of Lighting that costs 6 and deals 5 damage and 3 fear. Assuming you destroy a town and city, that becomes 8 fear, with the trade-off that it's a fast power and destroys invaders. Combined with an absurd energy gain, 10 at maximum, you have the potential for some really strong turns. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.